Hey, welcome everyone. This is Blue Rock Station's first virtual free school. Uh,
Woohoo!
yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Today, Eduardo is going to be cooking for us. The dude, he's got a good recipe for everyone to. Kristen's cooking along today. I'll be moderating for those that want to chime in with chat. Anyways, floor is to Eduardo. Let's have at it.
Yeah, hi everybody. Glad that you guys could join me today. So today we are going to be making a chickpea and sweet potato curry dish. By now you guys would have received a link to follow along and prepare yourselves. I really like any other recipe off the internet, kind of try to take a looser approach, because in the beginning, of course, I thought it was as easy as I just follow every step, I get every ingredient, and then boom, I'll get this magnificent thing that was, what I stumbled upon on the internet. But I've realized throughout the years that, one, you're never going to find every little thing you need on there, because sometimes they're asking for, a Ghanaian yam. I'm like, where am I going to get that? Or something of that nature. Or, they want you to do certain techniques to the thing that I never knew about. And somehow, even if you manage to do everything and get all the things you need, it still doesn't come out quite like it looks like. That's my experience. I don't know if everyone else has had the same experience.
Same.
Okay.
So when I take recipes off the internet, I like to be loose about it and take a, lax approach to it. So feel free to, do the things that you think are going to help it make it a much more tastier dish, and also encourage people to share their tips. So that's kind of the basis of what we're doing today, what this show will be about. Now,
Eduardo,
yeah.
I just want to say that the reason it never looks like it does in the picture is because some professional photographer had special lighting and maybe even fake food.
Right. True. So, I'm focused on quality, not just looks. So what we're going to make today is going to be looking tasty, looking good. But it's really just going to give you a healthy, good, nutritious meal. And also a lot of the recipes that I may choose to share right now, something to keep in mind, they're kind of based around the idea of having foods that have a high shelf storage life. So with the conditions being the way they are right now, you don't want to have to come back and forth between the grocery store. So, sweet potato that lasts a while if you keep it in a nice, cool, dry place. I'm using like canned tomatoes, canned chickpeas, and of course you don't have to use necessarily canned chickpeas. Dried chickpeas store very well too, but simple ingredients. It's under like 8 ingredients, and a lot of them last a while. Ginger, garlic, onion. I'll definitely love to use vegetables, but for instance, this recipe called for spinach. I don't have spinach on deck. I haven't been shopping in about a week and a half. So I'm at the end of my 2-week cycle to go grocery shopping. So I'm just trying to use things that have a long shelf life. A little bit about myself. I am not a professional cook. I have no cooking credentials, but I'm alive and I feed myself. So I feel like that's pretty good. That's been an accomplishment, but definitely in the last few weeks that I've been in quarantine, as they say, I've used my opportunity to enhance my skills, and really started cooking for myself when I turned about 18, more or less. Ever since then, I've just been taking it on a little bit more what people have been teaching me. So I'll teach you some of the things people have taught me that have made me be more efficient in the kitchen. Because one other thing to notice is once you are comfortable enough to, make food and gather an appreciation for that, then you also realize, well, I don't have all the time in the world to just hang out in the kitchen. Right now I do. This is a different scenario, but when things are moving and grooving, you don't have the luxury of spending about four hours in the kitchen every night. So, you know, I've been fortunate enough to be around people who had the experience and knowledge to make being in the kitchen go a little smoother and a little faster. And I've applied those things to where they're like, you know, just second nature to me. So one big thing about cooking is also efficiency and time, and getting that food in your mouth quicker. That's what it's all about. For me, there's just food, dinner, and then there's a big chunk in between of time that I don't know what I do with until it's dinner again. And then that's the highlight of my day every day. So here we are. Favorite part of my day. I love cooking. I enjoy it. It's like a meditation to me. And, you know, everything from gathering the food, everything from cooking the food to eating it, you know, I love it all. So I guess I'll start by saying, you know, that right now I have like a few things prepared ahead, but I'll also show you kind of how I got here. So here, I don't know if you can see all too well, or if you want me to try to zoom in the camera a little bit.
Oh, looks good.
It looks fine. That when you stand
Okay, cool.
there, it blocks too much. It blocks the light, so you can see that it's a piece of onion.
Okay, well, here we have the grated ginger. Then we have some minced garlic here, and you can see, oh, well, we're not going to be too concerned about that because what I was going to show you is how to peel this, but you can see that with the garlic, if you never peel the garlic, you have these tips here. I like to just pull that back and then, you know, kind of dig your nail into there, and then boom, you got peeled garlic, and then you can chop it up, mince it, do whatever you need to do with it. And then here's an onion. I peeled this onion already. Onion, you can almost say, is the same thing. You want to just chop the sides and then peel that skin back. And one thing to keep in mind is that even though you'll peel, let's say, the brown layer of skin, there is still another layer underneath that that is very rubbery. So you want to make sure that you peel back enough to where when you drive your knife into it, it's smooth and it's not, let me see, like going to kind of deflect it, because that rubbery layer will, as sharp as your knife is, it will deflect it, and you could potentially, you know, cut one of these bad boys off, and you want all of those. So brings me into my two next topics. Is one thing I remember when I first started getting into cooking, because I remember, you know, like I was like really about it. I was like, man, I want to start doing this. I didn't have the luxury of having someone make meals for me, you know, so I had to start really preparing food for myself. If I wanted to eat that night, I was going to have to feed myself. So I remember asking, I think it was what's that like nice, like kind of kitchenware supplier? Is that Sonora and Williams, something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, Sonoma. William and Sonoma.
Yes. So I had gone in there and I'm like, this looks like a great place. You know, they look like they're high-end quality kind of stuff. And I remember walking up to the woman. I'm like, you know, hey, if you had a tip for someone who wants to start cooking, what's like the number one thing I should start? Like, where should I start, you know? And I remember the woman told me, well, she thought about it for a second and said, you're going to want sharp knives.
Yeah.
And I know what she means now, because having a dull knife is actually dangerous for you for that same reason, that if you're chopping something, sweet potatoes can be kind of difficult to chop sometimes. If you have a dull knife, that can kind of, you know, slip off and cut a finger or something. You definitely don't want that. All in the same, you have to be careful with sharp knives, but a sharp knife is going to allow you to be more efficient and do things quicker. Also, it's going to allow you to like dig deep into things without too much effort. So a sharp knife is a great start. You know, get a good set of kitchen knives if you don't have them. You know, get a good one. You can get one of these at like Bed Bath & Beyond. You can get a set of them at Bed Bath & Beyond. And then there are places that will sharpen your knife. Like, for instance, if you're here in the Columbus area, I know Raisin Rack, every I don't know, you'd have to check in with them, but every like other Saturday or something, some fellow would come in to sharpen knives. I know the farmer's market in Worthington had a knife sharpening station. I just sharpened these knives with the kit we had here. So you should always just try to keep sharp knives for those two reasons, that it'll allow you to be more efficient and it's actually safe for you too. So with that being said, when you're actually cutting something, you also want to try to kind of not really put your fingers out like flat. You want to try to kind of maybe push your knuckles a little bit forward and tuck the tip of your fingers back in, because if you can see, if you got them out like this and you slip, you're going to cut right through one of your fingers. If you have it kind of knuckled, it'll almost deflect the blade. I remember my dad taught me that. I don't know where he learned that from, but he knew that, and he taught me that, and I always did it. So
Yeah, you don't want to be spending the rest of your life walking around being called nubby.
yeah, nope. So I feel like, you know, these are just simple things that are like safety 101. Obviously, you're dealing with gas and fire, so you have to feel comfortable. I mean, maybe not all people. Some people have electric stovetops, but anyways, just be mindful, be safe, because you're dealing with knives, you're dealing with fire, you're dealing with hot things. So I'm sure that everyone is aware fire burns and it hurts when you get burned. I've also prepared some sweet potato here. I have this one here whole, and what I just did with this was use a peeler here, like this one, another cheap item you can find at like Bed Bath & Beyond. I think that's where I get a lot of my stuff anyways. Or you can use a knife, all in the same. But, you know, just peel it back like that, and you can see that it will then expose you to the potato. So
I just
that's
want to
what I
say,
did there.
Eduardo,
Yeah.
Eduardo, you don't have to go to a big box store to buy these things.
Yeah.
You can often find quality knives and also, especially peelers, at thrift stores like Goodwill. They have of these things, and you really just need to invest in one of those files that is round. It's pointy and round, and then doing is actually just putting the edge back on to the knife. So when it starts feeling like it's not very sharp, it's just really not balanced properly. Just saying, from a sustainability standpoint, we have
Does anybody know the name of what that file is actually, so they could look it up?
I think it's called
The Honer?
Knife file. I don't know. I
think it's knife honing.
Knife honing. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Can I do that while I'm on here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can hone your knife.
No, I don't mean honing the knife. I mean looking it up. Jeez.
Well, if you don't want to be on full screen, you can do that probably.
I'm going to try chewing gum along with everything else here.
Did Kirsten have something to say?
Yeah, I didn't peel my potato. Do you think that's going to be problematic?
Oh, no. I'll say firsthand that if you don't want to peel your potatoes, it's not a problem. But yeah, actually, if anything, people would suggest, as far as health benefits go, to leave the skin on, because that's where you have a lot more of the nutrients and the vitamins.
Yeah.
So if anything, you know, it is better. But given the situation, I've been peeling everything just because that's the thing that makes contact with surfaces. So
that's fair.
Thanks for bringing that up. But
yeah, so it's happening.
Yeah, exactly. So you know, one thing I want to mention is I'm trying to keep this, you know, a C word free environment where we'll forget about that for a little bit and we keep it, you know, strictly cooking vibes. But
like it.
Yeah. So if you, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what you're making. You don't need to take the skin off. I think a lot of people take the skin off for maybe thinking it's dirty. I mean, it is dirty. It's dirt. But at the same time, like I said, that's the thing making contact with the soil. That's the thing that's picking up all those nutrients. That's how it's soaking it in. That's where it's all at. So you don't have to cut the skin on whatever it is you're doing. I don't think they usually cut skin on French fries. I'm sure we've all had plenty of French fries, right? So, yeah, good point. Anyways.
Hey, that knife sharpening thing is called a sharpening rod. R-O-D.
Sharpening rod. I would have never guessed a sharpening rod.
Yeah, it's boy, really technical.
Anyways, go get yourself a nice. You don't have to get yourself a nice knife. Like Annie was saying, all that matters is you get a knife. Even if you get it dull, you get yourself a nice sharpening rod, and then boom, you have a knife for as long as you have a sharpening rod. Anyways, we're gonna start trying to cook some stuff up. Here, I've got the garbanzo beans, also, aka chickpeas. I've got canned whole tomatoes that I'll kind of cut up and throw in there. My turmeric, coriander. Shout out Whole Foods, not doing any cross promotional stuff here, but I accept checks. Cumin seed, got that from a local co-op, possibly, or Lucky's. I like to always try to use the bulk, spices when they're available. And also, sustainability tip number 1, I like to reuse the bags when I can. I just keep the number on there.
Yep.
And also, I write, because sometimes I'll forget what kind of spice it is. And I'm like, I don't know what 7327 is. So I have to write the letters on there. But, once again, right now things are a little different, but on any other given day, you come in with your bags. If they have a bulk section available, they're not going to be mad that you're bringing in your own little bag. So I try to do that whenever possible, with anything, whatever it may be, beans, rice, spices. I try to keep that all and reuse it. So
you're a good man, Charlie Brown.
Thank you. My name's Eduardo. But I also wanted to mention that if you've been noticing, I've been dumping all of my kind of waste in here. Now, we have a compost bin here, so we're able to kind of put this in our compost and then now obviously turn it into soil. But also, the main reason for having this here, and this was another efficiency tip, is that instead of, having, let's say, different stations where you're preparing things and trying to cut everything and get rid of it in the trash or the sink, and you got potato peels over here, you got onion peels over here, you can just take everything that is waste and throw it right in here in one centralized place. That way you're in this zone. This is your zone right here. This is the zone.
They call this mise en place. You've heard that term before?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
En français.
Exactly. Annie's our French interpreter, but
En français. Yes, it's my place. It is my place.
But the idea is that you're going to be efficient in the kitchen. You're not moving around too much. Like, you don't need anything else. Everything you got is right here.
You're doing so great.
And you also want to have everything prepared too,
There's a monster. Stop.
So that's another tip there to help be efficient, move things along faster. Now I'm going to try to start getting everything rolling. And like I said, before you get cooking, as much as you can prepare, it's just going to make everything go faster. That way you're not caught up. Because one mistake I would do would be like, all right, I'm going to kind of follow through the recipe. Sometimes they don't specify, to prepare everything ahead of time, but they know. So I'm over here got the potatoes, but the onions are not peeled and they're not cut. And then I'm like, gosh, I got to cut the onions still. So I have 30 seconds to cut the onions before I burn the potato or something. So you really just want to have everything ready. So in that moment, you're ready to go. And all you got to be concerned about is actually cooking it all together. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to bring this to a medium heat. Emma, use olive oil. I know the recipe says coconut oil, but I don't have coconut oil. So I'm going to use what I have because that's what we do here. Actually, I could even use, I'm not going to because this is maybe a little bit less, but I have in this cup, I'm not going to tip it over because I'll spill it, oil that I use for deep frying. And instead of like getting rid of all that oil, I just reuse it. I just strain it. So, that could be done like maybe once or twice. If you're like deep frying things a lot, I've been deep frying a lot of things because it's my comfort food. But if you just strain it through like a fine strainer, you can use that oil again. It's like any other kind of oil. The more you recycle it, the more it's going to get burned, and eventually you don't want to use it. But you could get like 1 or 2 uses out of it instead of having to use new oil every time. Plus oil, unless you're like putting it in the trash or compost, you don't want that to be just accumulated in your sink. So you want to make sure that that's going somewhere responsible, because if you throw it in your sink, it's going to clog your sink. Oil and water don't mix. You don't want that. So you want to use as much oil as you can. If not, just try to toss it in the trash or something. But I mean, if you can use it, get the most out of it, why not? So that's another little, I don't know if that's an efficiency tip or a sustainable tip.
You can put it in the compost too, because dilution is the solution. So you just stir it in, and that's much better than putting it into the trash if you can avoid it. Also, if you refrigerate the oil, if you refrigerate it after you use it, that'll extend the life of it for maybe 2 or 3 uses.
Alrighty, there you go. I didn't know you could refrigerate oil.
Well, it'll solidify. It solidifies because and you want to keep it cool. It's because it becomes rancid even if you haven't used it. If you don't have it in a cool place and you keep it a long time, it can become rancid, which is not healthy for you.
Right. So before we get rolling, I wanted to ask about people's opinion on salt and if they use salt or not, because I'm someone that doesn't necessarily use salt, and I always forget this, that some people need salt. So they'll have to like add salt afterwards. So they're always like, oh, it's missing some salt. And I'm just like, I never use it, I just grew up with the understanding that salt was not, really, how would I say, it's a processed food to a certain degree, and it's not the healthiest thing. And I would never really like salty stuff anyway. So it was just a natural thing for me to exclude that from my recipes. But do you guys use salt?
I've gone to exclusively sea salt.
Yeah, well, it's not just sea salt, because that can be not exactly. It can be misrepresented. What you want is mineralized salt, and mineralized salt is not white, and that's where the processing comes in. But mineralized salt is not processed in any way, and it has all the nutrients in it, minerals in it that you would want to have, and it's generally going to be some shade of pink. And it's a good thing to buy at the bulk store because you pay less for it when you do that. So I just want to say that salt, at Blue Rock Station, we try to salt minimally because everybody has a different salt barometer. But salt does bring out the flavor in food. So if you're having trouble with your recipe and it doesn't taste exactly the way you want, you might put a dab of salt in it and we'll bring it into a sense of balance. As the expert here who has ruined many foods in my life, salt can fix things.
But can anyone else comment on the maybe conversation or maybe even debate about salt? Because I know a lot of people that also have felt the way I feel and try to avoid it, I don't know if that's just me or do other people feel the same way.
Well, most people, there's a high blood pressure, that hypertension that people, if you overindulge in it, you'll get. But it does unlock flavors in food, like Annie was saying. From what I've watched on TV, some of the chef shows, it's good to lightly cook with salt because it activates chemicals in the food to bring out more flavors in that way. So,
right.
Yeah, that's my opinion.
That's funny because I had this discussion with my girlfriend Brenda last night, but she's telling me the same thing, and I'm like, that's not true. I feel like when you add salt, what happens is your food gets salty, and that's it. Some people, all they need is food to have salt. Like, You know what I'm saying? I just need a thing to be able to put salt on so I can consume it. But I don't know. I just don't personally use salt because I don't like salty stuff. So
yeah. Well, so the goal is not to make it taste salty, Eduardo. The goal is not make it taste salty. And actually, the human body does need a certain amount of salt, which is present in some things. But if you don't want to use salt because of whatever the reason, you could use something like kelp, which does have the ability to add a little bit of salt to the balance.
You're right. Yeah.
Loaded with minerals. So that's the goal. That's absolutely the goal, is to use salt as a mineral, not as something, I don't know, just because you want to have a salty taste.
Right. Yeah.
I can support you because I don't put salt on anything, and then my partner gets really upset when I make food because he's like, "Should you put salt on this?" And I'm like, "No." And then so he just has to add his own salt because I don't think to do it. I just taste how they taste. I don't understand why salt is required.
Exactly. I think it's the same thing as sugar, you know what I'm saying? Like you grow up on it and food doesn't taste like food unless it has sugar or salt in it. But I don't know, at some point I switched my mentality and I tried to kind of, I think, take a healthier alternative, but I'm not trying to knock salt. I think it has its place, you know, especially when you're making things such as fries. Salt just always kind of hits the spot with like French fries, where I made yuca fries. Yuca is a very fibrous, almost bland root, and that salt really just helps kind of bring it to that next level. So it has its place, but I'm not adding salt to this, even though it says to add salt. And if you're wondering why, that's why, because I'm just not a huge salt person. Of course, you can add as much salt as you want. And that goes for spices across the table. You can add as many spices as you want. There's no wrong or right when it comes to the spices. It's just a matter of what works for you and what do you enjoy. But I will mention one thing. Being in a communal setting like Blue Rock Station, you have to always think about your weakest link. Maybe that's not the right term, but you get what I'm saying. I've definitely made food too spicy too many times. And I always forget about, you know, the people who don't have that same tolerance, because I'm Mexican AF. So if it don't feel a little spicy, it don't feel good to me. But other people who don't have a spice level tolerance at all, even a little bit, I'll be in there like, oh yeah, it's good. It's like not even spicy. And they're over here sweating. And I'm like, oh man, did I do it again? So I've done that plenty. So
what's AF? Oh, never mind. I just got it. Never mind.
So be mindful.
You're doing your onions first. And how did you cut your onions, Eduardo? I kind of watched you, but did you describe that? Kind of like stir-fry onions.
Yeah. You can cut the onions however. So maybe in other videos I'll make a note of that. Is, you know, like you can dice it. I made it so it's cut long ways, so you have like long strips of onion, because I like my onion that way. But I think the recipe even says to dice it. You know, it doesn't matter. It's onion. It's gonna saute the same way. But you just have to be mindful that if you don't want these long, like fajita pieces of onion, you can, you know, dice it. And what I did here to get it long like that, maybe I should have shown you guys, but you can cut it in half long ways. When you cut it in half long ways, you have to imagine that the onion is layered like this. So do you see that, Mac? You know this, right? So it's like this, not like this or like this. It's like this. So he looks like he's doing that. Ever you guys seen that Numa Yay guy? Oh man, obviously not. But I'll have to show you guys. This is what this whole session reminds me of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Numa.
Yes. So, anyways, you cut it in half, and then you just slice it. That's going to give you these long ways, and they're going to just fall apart because they're layered in such a way like this, where when you cut them, the layers are falling off the top of one another. And when you throw it in there, you'll see how they just melt over one another. And when you dice them, that's going to be a different game, you know? That's how you get the ring instead. So imagine you cut them halfway and then you slice them long ways, you're going to get long pieces. If you cut it the other opposite way, you're going to get rings instead. And that's how you get like diced pieces as well. So right now, I mean, I had just set my cumin. I'll kind of do a little rerun. Seeds in there for maybe a minute once the oil had cooked. Then I put my onion. I'm going to saute it to where it starts to get a little brown. Not go too far, because remember, it's going to cook with everything else still. But, you know, try to get it nice and kind of saute, get a little brown. You can smell the cumin. That cumin is going to be strong, you know. So once you do that, then you'll throw your garlic and your ginger in there. And right now would be a time, for example, you would throw salt in there or whatever it may be. But this, for me, is just fine. I don't need salt anyway. So let me see. Since it's just us chaps, I am going to text my girlfriend because she wanted to get on. But let me see. While I do that, I'm also going to take.
You want me? I can send her the invite if you want to keep cooking. You want me to do that, Eduardo?
Yeah. I sent it to her, but
you already sent her the link. Okay.
I did email to her. Let me just tell her to check her email real quick. Sorry. Okay. You know relationships. You know what I'm saying?
Those onions look good. Your camera's like pointed right at it.
yeah. But you can see my setup. This is the what would you call it? The set right here.
What do you mean?
The set, like it's a cooking show.
Oh, your set. Yeah. Okay.
I very much like your little setup, Eduardo. You can like see everything. It's very nice.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Let me show you the technical equipment that we have that I'm using. This is the technical equipment right here. It's a spice rack. It's efficient because it's my spice rack and it's my camera stand.
That's what
it's all about efficiency.
Efficiency.
We did a trial run a couple days ago and got it all sorted out.
All right, so I am going to throw in the garlic and the spices in there. And I just want to mention that this is like right here, what I'm doing, this is just basic curry everything. Everything is going to start like this. You're going to just throw in your onion, let that saute. Then you're going to throw in your garlic, ginger, and spices at the same time. So any curry you ever start, that's how you're going to start it. Like this is the same across the board. And really think about it like this. Like what we're doing here, you could have added anything. You could have added any vegetables, any meat. If you're a meat eater, you could have added your meat. You might want to have to cook it a little bit ahead in a separate pan or in the same one just to make sure it's cooked. But you can add anything once you kind of figure this formula out. So I'm at a teaspoon of turmeric. Like I said, there's no right or wrong. It's what you like. I don't need that much turmeric. A little coriander. And we'll add a little bit of that. There we go. So you're going to mix that up in there. And then what you're going to get when you add the coriander and the turmeric is a nice, like, golden kind of mix of everything. And it's going to just smell amazing. I love this. Like I said, this is the basic everything. Sometimes what you'll also add is cilantro and jalapeno. But basically, this is it right here. So hopefully, Kristen, yours is looking like this, if not better. But, you know, for the people making this at home. Yeah, for people making it at home, like I said, I'm interested to know what you do and your tips and how you like maneuver in your this is what I do. I'm just sharing what I do. Doesn't mean it's the best. But, you know, It's what worked for me, and I've maintained food in my belly throughout the years. You might not be able to tell because I'm so skinny, but I eat good. If you know me, I eat good. So I'm going to chop an extra sweet potato just because I like sweet potato. And actually, what I did, I think the first time was cut it in half. But you can see that this sweet potato is a little bit hard to cook or cut. And you're going to want to like really have a sharp knife because it can be dangerous if you don't do it. So you don't want to cut off a finger. And as you can see, like what I'm doing is I just kind of cut it into threes usually, like that, and then maybe cut it in half or cut a few pieces, and they get little cute pieces like that. See that?
Perfect.
That's that gold right there. I love sweet potatoes. I kind of first found out about them just maybe around the age of like 17, but they were more of a dessert treat. My grandmother used to wrap them in tin foil and then throw them in a fire, an open fire, and let them cook like that. And when they were ready, they'd be nice and tender, and she would eat it with milk. And that's how she would serve it to us.
Are they popular in Mexican culture?
Under those circumstances, yes. Like that, yeah. Yes. But, it depends where you go. Because in Mexico, really, it's divided into two, I would say, different kind of cultures, the South and the North. Much like anywhere. The North has a different culture than the South. The South definitely has a lot more indigenous roots. So if you go south, you just see a lot of more native style dishes. They use black beans versus pinto beans. Their tamales are made with banana leaf instead of corn husk. And they, are also just, you're going to notice a lot more indigenous looking people. But in the North, you have a stronger European colonial Spanish vibe.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of divided into two ways like that. Sweet potatoes, like I said, are more of a dessert kind of thing than they are a culinary staple.
So you said the other night that I just wanted to bring up the rice and beans together. You never knew that combination.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Any Mexican I've ever known eats his rice and his beans. In South America, they mix the rice and the beans. I'm telling you, this is a revelation. I didn't know about this. Because being in California, you might as well be in Mexico in some places, Huh. So yeah. I live, in like the SoCal region in San Diego, and I lived in a heavily populated Mexican region. So really, it was never any different than like, being outside of Mexico. But that was, just me. And I feel like if you at all ever like want to have a Mexican experience, but you don't want to go to Mexico, you can go there. And it's almost the same, except for the rad surfer dudes that you might find every once in a while. But even then, they all have to speak a little Spanish too. And they're tan enough that they look brown, like a Mexican. So with that being said, I feel like, it's just a completely like Mexican dominated culture. It wasn't until I got to Columbus that I was exposed to more other Latin cultures, like, Southern American Latin cultures. And that's when I found out about this great, like, secret, or not secret, but discovery of the the rice and the beans together. I just thought that was amazing, So anyways, I'm just dumping everything in here right now. I'm cutting my canned tomatoes to get in there with everything. Usually I don't use canned tomatoes, but like I said, with the scenario of how things are right now, I'm using canned tomatoes because they last a lot longer. And one thing that you don't want is to be wasteful and not, have the proper amount of food that you need to be able to use it in the weeks that you are at home. Because then you have, just food going bad left and right. So another thing that I learned a lot about is doing food prep to avoid things like that, because not only are you wasting food, and I guess, of course, if you have a compost, you're not really wasting it, right? But you not only are you wasting food, you're wasting money, and nobody wants to waste money, especially in times like this. So I think that a lot of the food planning idea is revolving around being efficient, especially when you have a busy schedule, and also making sure that you're not letting food go to waste, because then, you know, you're letting money go to waste, amongst a lot of other things. But just so that it really, really connects with you deeply. If you want to touch a man, you got to touch his pockets, you know. So definitely want to try to just be, you know, mindful of what you have in the kitchen. And what's the rule? What do they say? You know, first in, first out kind of thing.
Yeah, first in, first out. So, FIFO, if that's
FIFO.
Restaurant lingo. First in, first out.
Yeah, and just so you know, my crew is legit. My crew, you know, I have a restaurant expert here. I have, you know, I have my international food representative, which is Kristen. Mac is a pilot, apparently. So he's been around the block too. So he knows what's up, you know.
Not on an airplane, though.
Not on an airplane, though.
Eduardo, just so you know, because mine's gonna look different than than yours.
Yeah.
I had some dried black-eyed peas, so I just soaked those last night and then cooked them for like 45 minutes before we started.
Hey, that's all good.
I had normal potatoes, so I chopped up like russet potatoes. And
yeah.
Other than that, I think I had everything besides the red pepper flakes, which is great because I am the weakest link when it comes to.
Exactly. You see, perfect example. Let us all recognize that Kristen is the weakest link. Kristen, you are voted off the island this week. No, but for real though, it doesn't matter. Like I said, potatoes, root vegetables act the same for the most part. Some of them are a little bit denser than others. But sweet potatoes and potatoes are very interchangeable. Of course, I don't know if you know this, sweet potatoes are sweeter than normal potatoes. So you're not going to get that same sweetness that means. But nonetheless, it's still good. And if you have chickpeas of any color, green, black, purple, whatever it is, they all work the same too. So really, you can do it in many ways.
As far as the texture of your sweet potatoes, Eduardo, do you like them fairly al dente? I see that you kind of added them like near the end more. Is that a preference?
No, I mean, what's gonna cook, they're not really gonna cook like this. What you're gonna do is you're gonna simmer them.
Okay.
So I'm gonna get my coconut milk, and then I'm gonna get about 14 ounces, you know. You can just get a can that's about 14 ounces and throw that in there, but I didn't do that. So this is just so delicious, dairy-free coconut milk. And, you know, whatever you don't use, you're going to want to use relatively fast in something else, because coconut milk kind of spoils, you know. I don't know if it lasts longer than regular milk, but it'll spoil, you know. So you want to try to use that within 7 to 14 days after opening.
I also was thinking, like, because you know how now they sell coconut milk as if it's a beverage, but like,
yeah,
I think the thing in the can and the thing in the container are the same.
Yeah.
So I'm just using that. So.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine at all. By all means. So I think that as long as you have your coconut liquid, that's all. You could bypass the coconut milk if you don't want to use coconut milk either. You can just use water, and that'll give you the same cooking experience. Because the way we're cooking all this is we're gonna simmer it, and that's what's gonna cook the potato. The potato is not gonna be like cooked, you know, just by kind of tossing around in oil. So we're gonna have to bring this to a nice, you know, high heat. Once you see it start to bubble, then you're going to lower it down into a simmer and then cover it. And we will let that simmer for a little bit. But is there any questions? Anyone have any questions about anything? Any comments?
So how spicy did you make it, you think? On a level of 1 to 10, with
1 to
you
10,
having a pretty good tolerance of heat.
I mean, I keep it pretty mellow. Like, I try to keep it mellow for things right now, but I would say this is just like the average. What I'm kind of basing it off the recipe, trying to like follow that a little bit, you know. So it's probably going to be like a 5,
Yeah,
a 6, a 5 maybe. I could go hotter, but I also try to keep it mellow because I remember my dad. You know, my dad, he was the kind of dude that he just needed food to put hot sauce on so that he could eat hot sauce. So, you know, like we would have a burger. I could take him to a fine restaurant and he'd be like, "Where's the hot sauce at?" I'm like, "This is like gourmet, a steak or you know, whatever gourmet dish." He's like, "Well, it needs hot sauce and a little salt." So,
all foods
you
are
know,
just hot sauce vessels.
yeah, exactly. It's just a hot sauce vessel. So, you know, of course, if you feel like at the end of this it needs a little bit more, you're gonna taste it, you're gonna try it, and then you'll adjust it. There'll be a period to do that, but this should be a pretty kind of neutral thing. So that's gonna, like I said, bubble, and then we're gonna simmer it. What stage are you at, Kristen, right now?
So I am at, let me see if I can angle this appropriately.
What happened to Annie?
I'm at the simmer stage. Eduardo,
All right, cool.
I'm not sure what happened to
Oh,
her.
yeah, that looks good. That looks real good.
Yeah, that looks good, Kristen.
Yeah, I like that.
Sit for like 25 minutes and then I'll be good to go.
Yep. So in that meantime, I'm going to show you this black bean and this rice. Crazy. You guys, I don't know if you're ready for this, but I'm also...
Show us.
Well, hey, come on. Don't demand it.
Rice, so that I have that ready too.
Yeah, and if you are making rice for this dish, which I highly recommend, because honestly, what's curry without rice? You want to start doing that now. This would be an ideal time. So here I have my black beans, right? And then I got my rice here. Of course, rice, you know, depends what kind of rice, but for the most part, you just throw it in a small pot. You know, you add a cup of rice, you add 2 cups of water. You just always double the amount of water and let that come to a boil, drop it to simmer, let it cook for like 10 to 15 minutes. With the black beans, if you're making black beans from scratch, you want to make these by soaking them first in cold water for maybe a couple hours at the least. And what that does is that essentially allows you to be able to get all the proper nutrition out of the beans. And that goes across the board for any bean. There is on the outside layer of the beans, sort of like kind of sperm-like layer that kind of deep, you know, imagine it like takes it away by soaking it, like dissolves it, and then it allows the beans to cook faster, and also, like I said, your body's able to digest it better, and that in turn, by doing that tip there, is also going to reduce the gas, because like I said, a gas is a kind of a problem that arises when your body can't digest the food, right? You have bloating, so your body is bloated, so it's kind of bleeding out the gas. Because it's not fermenting properly. So and this goes across the board for any type of grain. Every grain has its process to make it more digestible for the human body. So with grains, you sprout it. With beans, you soak them. With masa, you also, you know, nixtamalize it. That's going to allow your body to be able to consume grains easier, because grains are, you know, typically hard for your body to consume. So that's a tip for that. If you're not trying to have a gassy date night with your significant other, that could be a little embarrassing. But with that being said, when you throw these with water, and it's kind of the same general idea. You know, you just want to fill it up, top it off with water, bring that to a boil, and then let it simmer for probably about 2 hours. Then you'll have black beans. And you can make a big batch and then just freeze the black beans and then use them like you need to. So that's what I do. That, or you can just get canned black beans. But of course, you can reuse this. You can't really reuse the can. So another sustainability tip of the day. Yeah, very good. So what I have here is a black bean and rice mix. And what I did with the rice too is I added cumin and lime to it to make it, you know, a little tastier. But you can add whatever. You can't add anything. At the end of the day, it's your preference. You know, if you want to add ketchup to your rice, hey man, that's you. You know. Does anybody do that?
There has definitely been at least one day in my life where that has happened.
We've all been there. Once again, the weakest link.
I grew up in a house where we ate like chicken, potatoes, and rice fluff. It's like not my fault.
You come a long way. I respect that. So I'm about to heat this rice up. Let me just get some spot right here. And I always, when I reheat rice, I always like to have a little water in there so it doesn't stick right away. You want to do it like anything. Tell me if this is not you. You're like anxious to reheat your food. You're thinking it's going to be quick. So you put the heat all the way up, but then you immediately like burn your leftover food, or you find it's sticking to the pan and you lost like 25% of your food to the pan because you're trying to heat it up. So when you're reheating food, I suggest you start slow, start small, and then work your way up. So
that's a good tip. I agree.
I've learned that throughout the years. Once again, trial and error. I know a thing or two.
A little bit of water sometimes helps too with that process. Just add like a couple teaspoons of water. That tends to help.
Yeah.
You're trying to like cook it underneath it or toast it.
Yeah.
Eduardo, I'm learning so many things. This is great. As a human
okay.
who regularly.
Yeah. So let me throw
You froze there for a second, Eduardo.
Hold on. Sorry. There we go.
Nice.
Can you see me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm trying to figure this out too. Can you still see, or does it close?
No, we see.
Yeah, you flip the screen. It looks like it's frozen though right now.
Yeah. Okay. We're good. I was just testing something out.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we can see it. The rice and the beans and the.
There we go. Yeah. It's live now.
So I'm about to throw that in there, and you can just see like it's lit. So let me turn that back around, and then I have a little moisture in here. Let me get one of these little bad boys here.
Are you gonna eat the black beans with the curry?
Hell yeah, I'm about to, because I had this left over.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes you think, well, maybe the black beans with the curry, that might not be so good. I don't know that it will or will not be, but I'm willing to experiment. And, you know, that's always going to be like a way to kind of make things a little interesting too, is to kind of experiment a little bit with leftovers. Sometimes you might have a little leftover of this, a little leftover of that, and you realize, wow, spaghetti goes really good with tacos. I didn't know. So I think it's good, you know, to try to like just, like I said, use what you have. Because I could have made rice. You know, I typically don't eat the black bean and rice, but I will say that I have this on deck. So it's like, why am I gonna make rice when I have rice already? And it just has black beans in it. But hey, I have no problem. I like black beans. I like rice. I like curry. It makes sense.
I think it'll go well together. I'm just trying to taste it in my head. I think it'll be fine. Taste
it in your head. That's what you say when you're poor.
Yeah, exactly. I got nothing right now. Can I come over, Eduardo?
I'm hungry. Taste it in your head. I'm like, oh wow, this North Star burger is great. I did want to ask, what, like imagine you're bringing someone from somewhere else in the world, and they're in Columbus for a day. What restaurant would you take them to? Like, what's a must go to restaurant for you in Columbus?
Oh, it's a hard question.
I'll start off with mine. My personal favorite, and the place I would take people to, is Loli Bella's Ethiopian food on the east side.
Bella's, yes.
Yeah.
Just because they're amazing. I mean, absolutely amazing. The atmosphere is great. The food is delicious. And it's just that lazy, laid-back African kind of vibe. You're on African time when you get in there. So
I would probably take people to Ab Indian restaurant in Bexley for like their lunch buffet.
Nice.
It's amazing. Some really good Indian food.
What about you, Kristen?
I also like Loli Bella's a lot.
But you can't say the same one as me, though.
But I think it's true. I have brought friends there before who have visited. Where else do I bring people? It depends. I have a lot of vegan friends. So Ethiopian is good because you can get easy vegan.
Right.
I went, the last time I had a friend in town, we were recommended by one of my colleagues to go to that new place on 4th. It's called Woodhouse Vegan Pop-Up.
Right, yes.
It was like pretty schmancy, but like such good vegan comfort.
Yes.
Would recommend. Yep. It was really yummy.
Yep, I've been there too. That place is good. Definitely a very intentional vibe that they try to put together, and I think they do a great job of making it, modern and hip. Real good food, real good gluten-free options too for those gluten-free people.
Oh, that's good to know. I didn't notice that part.
Yeah, the Woodhouse, right? It's like right across Hoove Hearted.
Yep, exactly.
So if you like beer, that's a local brewery too.
That's exactly what we did. We went to Woodhouse and then we went to Hoove Hearted.
Oh, they got you.
Yeah. I mean, that was the plan. We knew it was happening.
So
Eduardo, are you going to try to wait until it's all like simmered, or do you want to do like a closing thing?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's been about an hour, so we should probably try to finish up here. How much longer till everything's finished on your stovetop?
Probably another 10 minutes for me, but if you guys are satisfied with that, then that's fine.
What you can do, Eduardo, is just do like a closing, like just it'll be simmered and like done for everyone else, and then we can keep hanging out. But then we don't have to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
yeah.
Does that make sense?
I see. Yeah. Well, okay. How about this? We're gonna leave this simmering for another 10 minutes, and then I can get back to you. Or that's all, folks. One of those two. But if you want to share this food with me and you want to keep talking, I'm available. If you don't have any more culinary questions for me, then, all I want to mention is that support local food. If you can't access organic food, at the very least support local food. That matters. And, I like to go to local kind of smaller chain food suppliers. Like a lot of this food I got at Sagaras off Morse Road. That's our premier international store in Columbus. And they are amazing. If you want to like pretty much go into an airport, that's what it's like when you walk in there. Like an airport in a third world country, that's what it looks like. It's just people from everywhere. And then there's just amazing food. You're going to find things you never even knew existed. It's going to be an experience. Your mind's going to be blown. You're going to learn 3 languages on the way. Just a great place.
Dumplings.
There's restaurants there too. Yep. So it's a great time, and they just do a great job about, getting food from different ethnic backgrounds. So you can find a lot of things that you may not be able to find at your local Kroger.
Eduardo, one of the things that I'd like to point out here is that they opened up another store,
right?
The old Kroger store at Northern Lights Shopping Center on Cleveland Avenue. So
right, okay.
I haven't
heard
been in
about
there
that.
yet, but I'm sure it's probably pretty good.
Yeah, I heard about that. I heard that that had just opened. So there you go. You have 2 stores now. I haven't been to the other one. I don't know how big it is, but this first one on Morse Road near the 71 exit, that is a pretty big store, and it has everything. It has everything you can need. That really is like the one-stop shop, for stores. So, of course,
there's also an ambiance in that store that's unbeatable, because
yeah.
I enjoy going in there. I swear to God, I could go in there and not buy a doggone thing, but just having been around all kinds of different people and so forth. It's a
it's
great experience. Yeah.
So yeah, that's one store. Support your local co-ops if they exist. There's the Clintonville Co-op on Indianola. There's a Bexley Co-op. They all have great organic local foods. There's Lucky's, of course. They're a smaller chain, but they're sticking around here in Columbus. A lot of them closed down, but they're keeping true to the community here, and they've been great during these times. So I definitely would support them. And don't beat yourself up if you can't get to your nearest local store. I mean, Kroger and Whole Foods are just fine, but I think there's a pyramid you want to use. When you can't shop local, try to. So, anyways, with that being said, we're gonna let this simmer, and then I'm gonna get ready to eat. And you're welcome to join if you'd like.
Awesome. Thanks for teaching us today, Eduardo. This has been the first virtual Blue Rock Station free school that we're doing. We're going to have more to come. Please pay attention, and we'll keep you guys updated.